HCAM News is supported by our viewers and by Hopkinton Drug, located in this historic New England town since 1954. They are a multifaceted store dedicated to providing clients with an array of healthcare options.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of HCAM News. I'm HCAM News Director Tom Nappy. On today's edition of HCAM News, we talk with Hopkinton-Sewer Manager and Weather Spotter Eric Carty. We have the latest Hiller sports update, and Hopkinton Middle School hosted their annual holiday concerts. But first, a new episode of the Hopkinton Hangout Hour recently took place. The Hopkinton Public Library children's librarian Jessica Miller, otherwise known as Jack Miller, was featured on HCAM's Hopkinton Hangout Hour.
Right, now, we're going to talk about your new role as the young adult librarian here in Hopkinton. But before we get to that, I'd like to know a little bit about you, Jack. Where do you come from? What have you studied? Where did you grow up? Tell me everything.
Oh, definitely. Well, everything. We'll be here for a while, so get a comfy seat. No, I'll just give you the condensed version, Reader's Digest book version of me. I came from Manchester, New Hampshire, and so come from a great long line of wonderful, strong French-Canadian people, and then studied there all through high school and got into the University of New Hampshire on an ROTC scholarship. Where I majored in the humanities. So it was more of a broad degree, and it kind of really latched me on to my love of reading and learning and kind of delving into the deeper things that books can provide. From there, I spent 10 years active duty in the Army, traveled all over the world, some places better than others, and then got home and had a lovely daughter with my husband, and we decided that active duty time was done for us and family time was more important. So came home, and unfortunately he passed away, but I still have my lovely, awesome little girl, and she is 5 now. And then from there, thought, I need a career change, and went back to school and went to Simmons University, and then completed my library science degree there. Worked for a while in other municipalities' libraries, and then found my way to Hopkinton as a sub, and now here I am as the teen librarian.
The Hangout Hour also featured Hopkinton Town Clerk Connor Deegan.
We are so fortunate that in Hopkinton we have the Community Preservation Fund that takes a small amount of money off of your in your tax bill. It's a 2% surcharge in everyone's property taxes. And it actually goes towards things like historic preservation. And so one of the things that both I and my predecessors have been passionate about is preserving all of those records. So everything from the ink in the paper back in the day, even now in some cases, can have acid in it that'll slowly dissolve and disintegrate the paper over time. So then it's our responsibility to not only get everything into a condition where it can be handled without damaging it, but also to get the acid out of it so it doesn't just dissolve itself over time. So we actually have to deacidify the paper and the ink, and then we typically preserve it in Mylar and then rebind it or bind it in binders, depending on how bad the binding is.
Tom Nappy here. We are joined by our weather enthusiast, Eric Carty, the water and sewer manager of your town of Hopkinton. Eric, how are you?
Hi, good morning, Tom. How you doing?
Good. Can't complain. So today we're going to talk about some weather trends that are happening in Hopkinton. And of course, you can see the Hopkinton weather trends on our website just about every week, hcam.tv, courtesy of Eric Carty. And Eric, it's been pretty warm so far this winter. And we were talking before this segment, and you mentioned that it was expected to be more cold, but it hasn't really panned out that way.
Yeah, the long-term models had hinted at December into early January being really the cold part of the winter up front. And that just hasn't turned out to be the case. So yeah, it was supposed to be a front-end loaded winter for the cold, and then back in January and February, trending back a little bit towards the warmer conditions that we've kind of seen in the last few years. Similar, they like to look back at old setups, and this is very familiar to, I think, 2011, and I want to say 2016 might have been the other one that they looked at that had similar conditions that they look at, the way the oceans are, the way the La Ninas and the El Ninas are setting up. So it was pretty comparable to that, but we're supposed to have a couple inches of snow the other day, and that turned out to be a bust. But we sure haven't been short on water, that's for sure. We had a record amount of rain through the summertime. I think it was the highest totals ever recorded for July, August, and September. And then even into the fall, continue with really wet months there. And then, as you mentioned, yeah, we were really warm. November was actually the sunniest month of the entire year, which is usually the reverse case. November is usually the cloudiest month of the entire year. So the weather is just all over the place. Our norms are out the window, and it's it's what you see is what you get pretty much nowadays.
Absolutely. And speaking of our norms, let's take a look at these trends here. You can see that the high, 60.5 degrees. That's pretty high temperature for this time of year. And then on average, 41.8 degrees. I'd imagine that's higher than normal.
It is definitely, yeah. As I mentioned to you earlier, we were out golfing last week, and we already golfed 3 times in December here, which is, usually everything is shut down late November because of the cold. So it's, yeah, definitely trending warmer. I was actually looking back on some of the stats from last year. And this time last year, we had 16 inches of snow on the ground. We got hit with a big snowstorm up front, which was pretty much the only storm we had for the entire year. And then Christmas Day, we got an inch of rain. It turned really warm, and we lost that entire 16 inches of snow was gone, because I remember dealing with flooding actually on Christmas Day. So it just seems like we go from one extreme to the other now.
That almost seems to be how it's panning out to be this year. We were supposed to get snow last week, as you mentioned. It ended up just being kind of like ice pellet kind of thing going on. It was just little rocks of ice that wasn't too pleasant, but I guess it's better than snow. But it's also been pretty windy lately. Some strong winds over night last night, 3.1 average wind for the last week. So are you expecting any snow this winter? Are the skiers going to be happy, or do you think this is probably going to be a pretty dry winter?
Well, so far the setup right now, and you probably saw in the news, there was some devastating winds last week with a big tornado outbreak a week and a half ago. And then even last week up through the Midwestern plains in Colorado, they had over 100-mile-an-hour winds. And it's crazy the way the setup. Right now, the Gulf of Mexico is record warmth for this time of year. And that moisture coming off the Gulf with the jet stream that's coming down from the north is just producing these extremes that we're seeing. So we're still set up for the pattern that we could get some storminess coming in. It just depends on whether we're on the warm side or the cold side. It's definitely stormy. So it's either going to be wet or flakes on one end or the other until this pattern changes. But the general perception of most of the meteorologists that I follow in the long-term models that it was going to be cold up front with most of the snow in December and early January, and then turn out to be mild for the rest of the winter there. So we'll come to see if that comes to fruition. But that's the way they had been looking at it.
I'd have to imagine there'll be one storm in there somewhere. You usually get that one storm, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I'm a winter enthusiast, so I'd like to at least see some snow. And I was looking back, but it was 4 years ago this week we were out actually skating on the lakes. It was so cold early on through November that we had a good safe base for ice. So it's going to be tough even to get the Park and Recs is looking to get the community rink going again, but it's going to be tough with the way things are right now. This looks like the coldest stretch right here, and then we might go back to mild again. So
I'd have to imagine, though, that these conditions have been pretty favorable for the DPW work you guys have been doing.
Yeah, so far so good. It looks like maybe tomorrow there might be a little bit more of that ice mixture that we had, and then maybe again on Christmas Day. Those are sometimes tougher. I think sometimes they like the snow better. They know what's coming and they can plan for it. But yeah, they only had to go out and I think salt just minimally during that last storm, and they had planned to stay all night due to the forecast, but they were able to come home early and And, tomorrow looks like just another light precipitation event that they might be able to just get away with the salt for sure again.
And on another note, how is everything going at the DPW? You guys still working on any major projects, or is that all pretty much on hold for the winter?
For the most part, everything has wrapped up. We finished our water main back in the end of October on Hayden Road, which was a great connection. We're actually right now just flushing the new water main that was put in for the subdivision that connects Chamberlain Street with Whalen Road. And that's going to be a significant loop that will benefit our system. So we're flushing that out. It passed all its tests. So we should have that livened up for tomorrow, which will be a significant, again, loop for us. So if something happens on Main Street, normally the town would be disconnected from both parts would be separated, but this loop will now help keep that and will also help with firefighting issues as well. So that's a big benefit for us. Of course, we're also still dealing with the PFAS issue. We have to continue with our monthly testing. Right now, we're looking into getting some type of filtration unit down at our wells. Unfortunately, there's just so many communities dealing with this right now that it's very hard to come by. So it's looking like it might be a 6 to 8 month window before we can get some filtration in here because of all the different communities vying for it. Everyone had to test for it by October. We went in with the early program doing it with the state grant money. So we're a little bit ahead of schedule, but there were some others that had to do it a lot earlier, some of the bigger cities. So they kind of got to jump on any of those filtration units that might be available. And of course, with all the supply chain issues, getting parts to build things is compounding the issues there. But so we'll still be working on those throughout the winter. And then, hopefully, knock on wood, we don't get any deep freezes. That tends to start causing the water main break. So knock on wood, we've been lucky so far in that avenue.
Well, you guys are doing a great job. I know you've had your hands full this past year. So thanks for all the work you do for town. And we'll have you back again to check in on the weather, see if any trends are changing, and see if we'll get snow at any point this winter. But so far, a much warmer winter than expected. Thanks a bunch, Eric.
Yep. All right. Thanks for having me as always, Tom. Appreciate it.
We are going to take a quick time out, but a whole lot more ahead. You're tuned into HCAM News. Don't go anywhere. HCAM programming is supported by our viewers, thank you, and by Phipps Insurance Agency, representing companies such as MapFree Insurance. Their family-owned independent agency is deeply rooted in the communities they serve and offer time-tested insurance products to fit individual needs. Since 1950, Phipps Insurance specializes in home, auto, business, condo, and renters insurance. Welcome back to HCAM News. The Hopkinton Hillers kicked off their winter season. Here's a look at the latest highlights. On Monday, December 13th, the Hopkinton Hillers opened their season versus Norwell. Just over 9 minutes left to go in the first period, and Norwell strikes. Trying to get in there for the Hillers. Along the inboard, sent out, shot, and it is going to be put in. A goal for Norwell, and that was Quinn Simmons making it 1-0. Under a minute left in the first period, and this happens. Simmons racing in, shot, goal! Quinn Simmons makes it 2-0, Norwell. Norwell's Quinn Simmons nets 2 first period goals for Norwell, and they would start the Hillers off in the loss column. Norwell takes the game 6-1. On Tuesday, December 14th, Hiller boys basketball hosted Westboro in their season opener. The Hillers started off the first quarter on a 9-0 run. Takes it in from the wing. Around the horn they go. Shot from up top, off the glass, and in. Deisenroth. And we get a steal there by Graham, and here comes the Hillers driving in, up and in, Paharic.
And there it is, 11-0.
What a great start for the Hillers.
Goodness.
Down the perimeter they go. Shot from the corner.
Oh.
Knocking it down is Paharic. Paharic for the three. Hopkinton led 21-10 after the first quarter and continued their dominance into the second quarter. Here we go here. Graham. Pantera. Over the corner. Wide open look. Angled shot and knocks it down.
Nice stroke.
Back to Fatahi. 4 seconds left on the shot clock. Fatahi, no. And put back, count it. Sam Pantera. Hillers outscore Westboro in the second quarter 20-10 and led 41-20 heading into the third quarter. And Hopkinton continued to strike very efficiently from the field. And now Pantera between two defenders up and count it. On the far side, short, gets it back across. Great feed underneath, and Fatahi finishes. This year he is expected to do big things with the varsity roster. It's Fatahi on the and one. Hillers outscore Westboro 22-13 in the third quarter and led 63-33 heading into the fourth quarter. They went on to take the game with ease by a final score of 79-45. Hiller boys basketball start off the season in the win column. And the stars of the game for Hillers boys basketball included Sam Pantera, the sophomore, struck for 22 points. And Nate Casper pitched in with 16 points for the Hillers. On Wednesday, December 15th, Hiller boys hockey hosted Medfield in their second game of the season, first TVL game of the season. Scoreless game in the second period, and Joe Carazza gets a breakaway. Along the corner, win. Nice move by Carazza. Carazza looking for a break. Here he goes. Racing in, wrister goal! Joe Carazza makes it 1-0 Hillers. A short-handed goal from the junior, Joe Carazza, at 8:36 left to go in the second period. Carazza nets the goal with 8:36 left in the second frame, but Medfield struck back in the third period. Along the near side, sent back by Sanderson. There's a shot, and it's put in! Liam Ladd evens up the score at 1 apiece. Liam Ladd finds the net with 10:16 left in the period, and some great defense by both sides forced overtime. Newly implemented this year, a 5-minute sudden death overtime period, and unfortunately for the Hillers, Liam Ladd struck again. Scardino sends it over. And now racing in, there's a shot and a goal, Liam Ladd! Liam Ladd with the game-winning goal! Liam Ladd leads the way as Medfield takes the overtime win over Hopkinton, 2-1. Medfield is 1-0. Hopkinton is 0-2 on the season. Hiller swimming also met up with Ashland this past Wednesday night. The girls lost a close meet, 97-79, while the boys took a close win over Ashland, 85-82. Hillers swimming hits the pool once again next on Saturday, December 18th at 5 p.m. You can catch the meet live on HCAM. Hopkinton Middle School recently hosted their 8th grade concert. Here's a look. time to take a look at our picture of the week. The Hopkinton Hillers boys varsity basketball team stands for the national anthem prior to their 79-45 season opening win at home versus Westboro. Upcoming town government meetings include on Tuesday, January 4th at 7 p.m. The Conservation Commission will be live on HCAM TV. And on Tuesday, January 6th at 7 p.m., the School Committee, which will be live on HCAM Ed. For all upcoming town government meetings, head over to hopkintonma.gov. Believe it or not, we are out of time for this edition of HCAM News, but don't worry, next Thursday at 6:30 p.m., we'll be back. For everyone at HCAM, I'm Tom Nappy. As always, we thank you for watching, and we hope that you enjoy your holidays with your friends and your family and have a safe and wonderful time during the holiday season. Thanks for tuning in. Take care, be well, and we'll talk to you again soon.